Handling sudden money when you all of a sudden get like a boatload of cash, it's actually very, very difficult. I mean, there is a reason why all these lottery winners always wind up broke 3-4 years later. Yeah, because it's a shock to the system. Yeah, you all of a sudden get, I don't know, 10 grand, 100 grand, $1 million, 20 million bucks, right? It's going to be a shock to your system and you got to handle it. And you actually have to prepare for it. Oh yeah. For the purposes of this video, let's assume that you have a steady income. You have some job or whatever. Maybe not a great job, maybe it's a shitty job. But for some reason, you all of a sudden got like a boatload of cash, right? You got it because of like an inheritance, because something happened, some work thing, side business that you were doing all of a sudden popped, whatever the reason. You got a hunk of cash, even though you still have a job or a source of income of some sort, right? So the first thing that you have to do, the very first thing that you have to do when you get this sudden cash is not quit that other source of income. Yeah, because a lot of times, a lot of guys get some influx of cash, right? Let's say you know, X amount of money, 10,000, 50,000, 100, $1 million, doesn't matter. They get this hunk of cash and they figured, oh man, I got it easy street now. I don't have to work anymore. And they quit their job. That is a huge mistake. Because see, your job, whatever is your source of income, it gives you stability. It gives you stability in a sense of like, okay, this is my life right now. And if you continue, this money, this sudden influx of cash, this pot of gold that landed in your lap, right? It's going to naturally unbalance your life. If you continue with your job, you will maintain balance. You will maintain balance. You might hate the job that you have to do that produces this income stream, and this income stream might be incredibly modest. You might think to yourself, well, actually, you know, this income stream, this job, this shitty job I have, maybe I'm washing dishes, right? It takes so much time away from this new money that I should quit it and dedicate. No, don't. Stick to the routine, at least for a few months, like 3 or 4 or 6 months, at least for a little bit until you're accustomed to this new pot of gold that's in your life. Yeah, that's the first thing you should do. Don't quit your day job. Keep on trucking. Right? Number one. And number two is how you think of this pot of money. And more to the point, you have to realize, see, this pot of money is not all yours. A big chunk of it belongs to the government. Yeah, a lot of guys, they get some hunk of money, right? 100 grand, $1 million, whatever. And they don't realize that they're going to have to pay taxes on the money, right? And they start treating the money as if, you know, all of it, they can spend it all, it's theirs, yeah? No. Yeah? Depending on circumstances and your tax liability, it can be anywhere from roughly 25% to 45% that you're going to have to pay in taxes. All right, depending on your country and your state taxes, local, what have you. Yeah, it could be as high as 55% of the money goes to taxes. Okay, and sure, you can figure out very sophisticated ways to minimize your tax liability, but still, a big chunk of it is going to go to the tax man. So as soon as you get this pot of gold, what you got to be thinking of is like, how much of it is actually mine? The part that goes to the government, strip it right out. Set it aside instantly. As soon as you figure out how much is your tax liability, just set that money aside. It's not yours. It's not yours. It's the government's, okay? It's fair, it's not fair, fuck it. It doesn't matter. It's the practical reality of it. That money is not yours. It belongs to the government. The government will come and take it at some point. So the smartest thing you can do is that as soon as you get that pot of gold, set aside the percentage that is the government's. And maybe you overpay. Fuck it. It doesn't matter. Maybe later you figure out very sophisticated ways to minimize your tax burden. Doesn't matter. Be smart. Because what you want to have in your head mentally is you want to pay off the tax man as early as possible so that in your head you are dealing with a figure that is actually yours. And if later you can figure out ways to minimize that tax burden, think of it like a bonus, right? But don't think of it as yours from the get-go. Always set aside the money for the tax man so that later you're not going to feel very miserable, because guys who fuck with the tax man, they always pay badly in the end. They always suffer. Don't be dumb, be smart. pay them off from the get-go. Now, the next thing you do once you get your pot of gold and you've put aside the money that you're going to pay to the tax man, well, the next thing you do is you don't spend it, not even 1 cent. This is the tough part. I mean, very few guys can do this, okay? More often than not, guys will say that, oh, I'm just going to spend a little bit, and that little bit grows and grows and grows, and all of a sudden the money's all gone, okay? Because you see, the thing that happens with money, with a pot of gold, is that it is so easy for that money to just slip through your fingers, huh? You spend a little bit here and a little bit there. Oh, it's just, you know, a little new clothes or a nice little car or something like that. And all of a sudden the money's gone. You would be surprised how quickly it vanishes, okay? If you get a pot of gold, you've set aside the money for the tax man, right? And you got your actual pot of gold, your net pot of gold, right? Okay, once you have that net pot of gold, you guard it with your life. You don't spend it on little things, no matter how trivial, because I am telling you, from experience, by the way, okay? From experience, that money will slip right through your fingers like water, and there will be nothing to catch it. It'll just slip away and it'll be gone, and you will be left with nothing, okay? So you want to not touch the money and not say to yourself, oh, I'm going to set aside a little bit, Hold it intact. Apart from the part that goes to the tax man, you hold that pot of gold intact, and what you do with it is that you buy an income-producing asset. You want to buy income-producing assets with your pot of gold, like real estate, like income-producing bonds, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It could be some small business that you can buy that you actually know about, right? But what you want to do is turn that pot of gold, which is in a very real sense pointless, and turn it into an income stream. And what's an income stream? It's a little bit of money every month or every quarter or semester or year, doesn't matter, right? But it's money over time, see? Because what you want is to take that pot of gold, buy something like, for instance, a rental apartment, and from that rental apartment you're going to get income every month, and that income will help you live, huh? It is much, what you want to do with any pot of gold is buy an income-producing asset as opposed to spending that money, because eventually that money from the pot of gold, if you spend it, it'll run out. But an income stream, an apartment, a well-placed apartment in some place where you always have a renter, that can be forever, or forever in a practical sense, 40, 50 years. You'll be dead by the time it's knocked down. You see what I'm saying? That's what you want to do with that pot of gold, an income-producing asset. Lottery winners never do this. Lottery winners, what they do is they take the money, they spend it little by little, and even if they are frugal with it, even if they are relatively careful, the money eventually runs out. Yeah, sure, you can tell me that maybe he wins a $100 million lottery, but come on, let's be realistic, okay? Most of the time, what happens is that people spend it, okay, and it runs out. And so if you buy an income-producing asset, that's something there forever. And it's trickling money every month, trickling money in your direction. And that's what you want. The other thing you have to do, or let me phrase it, the other thing that you do not want to do is give money to family and friends. Yeah, because these family members, these friends, so-called friends, they're going to come out of the woodwork and they're going to be asking for money. They're going to have their hand outstretched and they're going to be all smiles. They know that you got a pot of money, right? And all of a sudden, they're going to be your bestest friends, the bestest friends ever, and they're going to go out drinking with you and partying and have a good time, and they're going to say, oh, I just need a little loan, you know, I need 10 grand, 20 grand for this, that, the other. Yeah, they're going to come out of the woodwork. They're not your fucking friends, okay? They're just opportunists who see a sucker, you. They're going to see that you have money, and they're going to try to get that money, yeah? And maybe you worked goddamn hard for that pot of gold. Maybe that pot of gold just sort of like fell into your lap. Doesn't matter. These fuckers, they're going to come out of the woodwork, yeah? And they are going to try to get their claws into you, their psychological claws. And it's going to be really nasty because they're going to guilt trip you, make you feel bad, because they're going to make you feel good, yeah? That camaraderie and that feeling of belonging and having a good time with people, yeah. They're going to use that in order to get money out of you, to get a piece of your pot of gold. And you'd be surprised how quickly that pot of gold can disappear. Look at Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was the richest boxer ever, and he lost it all because he gave it away to these friends and family who weren't his fucking friends, and they certainly weren't his family. They were just opportunists. And that happens all the time. And, you know, Mike Tyson, you can say that, oh, he wasn't so smart and he was a young guy at the time. Sure. But there are really fucking smart people who fall for the same exact trap, okay? It's easy to fall for that trap because we all want to feel like we belong, okay? So whenever anybody hits you up for money, you tell them no. And if they say to you, well, aren't we friends? You say, no. We're not fucking friends because my real friends don't hit me up for money like you, motherfucker. That's what you say to them. And finally, what you have to think to yourself is that this pot of money, maybe it's because of some side business that you're doing. Maybe it's the start of something big, right? And that would be wonderful if it is. Maybe this is the first big payment of an illustrious career that you're going to have for the rest of your life. That would be wonderful to think that, right? But don't assume it. Suppose that you get this pot of gold because of some career move that you're making. And you get this pot of gold and you think to yourself, ooh, I can repeat this, I can do it again. It's certainly, we can hope, you should hope that you can repeat it, but don't count on it. Always assume that this sudden money, this big pot of gold that you all of a sudden got, assume that you will never see another like it for the rest of your life. Just assume it automatically. Just assume that this is it. It's the one time in your life that you got a shit ton of money. If you think of it in those terms, you'll be able to handle it much better. If you think of it in those terms and believe in your bones, even if you have to fool yourself, even if like the next big payout is like in just a couple of months or something, you have to convince yourself and mentally trick yourself into thinking that this is the only time you're going to have this money, and therefore you have to invest it wisely. Don't spend it on friends and family. Don't spend it on stupid shit. Spend it on an asset, on an income-producing asset like a rental property. And be smart. Don't be dumb. Pay off the tax man. Be smart. So many guys blow sudden money. And it's all misery after that. Misery, right? Don't be like that. Don't be another cautionary tale. Because there are so many cautionary tales about this precise problem, okay? There are so many cautionary tales, so you shouldn't become one of them.